Hey beer lovers, this is Shane with I Love Virginia Beer Podcast, your home for all the behind the scenes information on Virginia's wonderful world of craft beer. So on today's show we have Chris Smith and Robbie Willie of the Virginia Beer Company. Thank you both for being on the show with me.
Thanks for having us.
You guys have kind of an interesting story. So you both met here in Williamsburg while attending the College of William and Mary, and then separated off to wherever in the world. You went to New York, if I recall correctly?
Yep, I left Williamsburg for 5 years and went to New York.
And you stayed in Virginia, but didn't stay
I'm from
here.
Northern Virginia originally, so I went back up closer to where I'm from and worked at a financial consulting firm in Arlington, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C.
Awesome. So tell me about how you guys met, how the idea of this started way back when you guys were at the College of William and Mary, and how you came back together to create your brewery.
Yeah, absolutely. The ironic thing about this whole thing is that we were both transfer students to William & Mary. So William & Mary was what connected us. Chris's wife, Erin, is also an alum. His youngest brother, Will, is also an alum. So, both of us have, a pretty storied background in terms of the college here at this point. But we both transferred here. And one of the things that connected us early on was we both got a job at the student phone-a-thon. And it's where the students basically called alums and begged for money for the college. And so that helped us many years later when we were raising money for the brewery, because we knew how to beg and plead for money to help us with whatever project was in front of us. But we met at the student phone-a-thon. We both lived in off-campus dorms, and so that connected us as well. We just we were afforded the opportunity to spend some time together early on when we didn't really have a lot of other friends as we were getting acclimated to our new college. Over time, we became fast friends. We were actually in a band together in college. Chris is a very talented musician. His family is all very talented musicians. Comes from a family of professional musicians. So Chris was kind of the band leader, led us through our days in college, did a little touring on the side. And then after college, we stayed in touch. And one of the things that really drew us back to the college was joining this annual giving board, and taking our roots from the phone-a-thon days and actually saying we want to be involved in the college's fundraising processes and the college working to keep alumni connected as they spread out and go on to their future careers. And so every quarter, a couple years after we graduated, we were coming back to William & Mary for these board meetings. And so we'd find ourselves going back to our old stomping grounds, particularly the Greenleaf Cafe and Pub, which at the time, 10, 15 years ago, was one of the only craft beer bars in Williamsburg. 40 taps at the time, which was unheard of for most of the bars, not just in Williamsburg, but around the state. Not really something commonly seen. And so we found ourselves kind of working our way down those taps, both in college, if we're being honest, and also as we graduated and had some expendable income to spend on these different craft beers. And we just found ourselves together in Williamsburg on a regular basis, exploring craft beer on a regular basis. We both started dabbling in home brewing, and one thing led to another. And Williamsburg was kind of the centrifuge of all of this happening, both the time spent together and the interest in beer.
Nice. Did you guys get into home brewing when you were in college?
No, we didn't actually. We started drinking beer at the Greenleaf, like Robbie said, so we had interest in craft beer, but we didn't necessarily start home brewing. I think when you were in Northern Virginia and I was in New York, we started a little bit separately, working together separately on that. But I wouldn't say we became really serious home brewers when we talked about opening a brewery as far back as I think 2007. But we always envisioned hiring somebody to run the brewery.
I would say Chris and his wife Erin were probably a little more into the homebrewing side than I was. I kept dabbling in it when I was in Arlington, but I was kind of a workaholic when I was working for my former firm. And I moved around a lot while I was in Arlington too, as the younger generation does. So it was hard to get settled and build up, kind of the equipment needed to actually go beyond the brew kits. Whereas I can remember visiting Chris and Erin when they had moved to Boston, because Chris's wife Erin was in veterinary school, and actually seeing the bottles, kept in a dark corner of their apartment, and them telling stories about bottle caps popping off in the middle of the night and hitting bottoms of tables and waking them up, and then not sure.
It wasn't the best home brewer in the world. So, not bad. Not the best.
I think Chris having a partner, that was interested in it as well, probably helped to kind of, get them a little more advanced than I was. But it was fun because I'd come up and we'd go to homebrew shops and we'd work on some recipes together, just dabble in it. And of course, that would also lead us to going to package shops and buying local craft beers and maybe drinking more of it than brewing it at that time.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, getting us through those 80-hour work weeks.
I got to ask, what'd you guys play in your band?
What instruments?
Yeah.
I played the guitar. And Robbie was.
And I have the voice of an angel, so I was the lead singer.
I can tell.
Few people have said that. One or two.
So it's really interesting. On your website, you guys talk about how when you guys discussed opening a brewery, you wanted to do something that was community-based, philanthropic, and for the greater good. How did that evolve into what you've done now?
I think, one of the things that I think Robbie and I both felt in our previous careers was that we didn't, work. It was fine. It was work, but it didn't have much of an impact on the communities we were in. And like Robbie said, we were so connected to Williamsburg, the community, and William and Mary, that it made sense to come back here and try to get some of that fulfillment that you don't necessarily get from jobs like we had in the past. So I think we always had that in mind when we came back to open the brewery. I don't know if we had it like exactly how that would go in mind, and it's evolved a lot in the 2 years we've been open, and we've been back a lot longer. But we have a great team here, and they've really helped us develop that mindset and push forward that way. And I think we've come to be known pretty widely in the community as a community-based organization, an organization that cares about a lot more than just making profit.
Yeah, well, William and Mary was kind of the first part, because we were already doing volunteer work for the college to help them raise money for a lot of the work they were doing, and we'd seen a lot of the good that the college had done, not just for us, but your brother Will going on that trade mission to Africa, and now Will runs a soccer academy in Liberia, which is focused on education and sport, and combining the two. And William and Mary affording him the opportunity to go to Africa for this project while he was here allowed him to then figure out, this is the career I want to take on. I want to get involved in philanthropy, and I want to go to Liberia in particular and then start this project. And so we were already focused on, okay, what could this business do to support our alma mater that's doing so much in the community and the world? But then beyond that, bringing in locals to join our team, getting more involved in their passion projects and what drove them and their families and their interests has really helped us to go beyond just that affiliation with the college, but to really be a force for good in the community, and using this space as a platform, because you get a lot of people who come to breweries who don't necessarily always go to other philanthropic events. Right. So it's kind of combining the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. So it sounds like when you started out, I know you guys got a world-class brewer,
Jonathan Newman.
Yeah, Jonathan Newman. Sorry, I had to check my notes for his name. He was with you guys from the very beginning when you opened up, right? So you guys had your business idea, and then you recruited a brewer.
We did, yeah. We started writing our business plan in 2011, 2012. And like I said before, we were decent home brewers, but we knew we couldn't run a production brewery, especially one of the size that we were interested in opening. So we started looking for a brewer in early 2013. We obviously thought we'd be open a lot sooner than we were, a lot sooner than March 2016. But
it takes time.
It does. It does take time. So we started looking for a brewer, and Jonathan was actually one of the first people who responded to our pro brewer post. And we went to Asheville, North Carolina. He was in Atlanta working for Sweetwater at the time, and we met him in Asheville, North Carolina for like a weird beer blind date kind of thing. And we hit it off, had a good weekend, discovered that his beer was great, and the beer at Sweetwater, but also his home brews that he brought us, but also that we kind of had a similar vision for how we wanted to open a brewery and what we wanted to do at that brewery. So pretty quickly after that, we decided that we wanted to work together, and Jonathan stayed on at Sweetwater. He was finishing his degree through the American Brewers Guild at the time, so he kind of worked as a consultant for us, and it was an exciting time for us because we'd develop recipes, and Jonathan would brew them and then ship them up to us, and we'd get to sample these early test batches of beers that are actually, on this table right now.
That's awesome.
Back in 2013. And Jonathan actually officially joined us up here in Williamsburg in August of 2014.
Okay. And your opening date was?
March 2016.
Okay. Wow, so even after he joined you, it still took a little over a year.
We kind of hit that wall where we had been looking at equipment, we had been looking at spaces. Jonathan had been working on test batches. We had been working on branding. We had been fundraising. The business plan was as complete as it could be at that point. And Jonathan had finished his coursework essentially with Sweetwater, and he basically said, "I'm ready to come up and join the team because I think I can do more on the ground than I can from afar." And even though we knew that we still had a little time to go, we felt like we could together move faster than we would otherwise. So I think we all were a little surprised with how long it took. And at some point, though, I think now 2 years in, we look back at some of that as serendipity, finding the right place. When we first saw this building, Jonathan and Chris were actually the first to see it. It screamed brewery, and it helped us to make the recipes ready for public consumption, not just our personal consumption, but for people who actually have to pay money for it. And so the little things like that, it worked out really well. So it did take some time after Jonathan got here, just based on a few factors out of our own control, but well worth that time to put the whole thing together.
As you guys put this together, what has been the biggest surprises and the biggest, the biggest surprises?
How much work it is?
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be hard work, but and I think people sometimes have this picture of running a brewery from the outside. I'm like, oh, that just looks like so much fun. You just kind of sit around and drink beer all day, but there's so much more to it. And coming from corporate backgrounds where we had a job and we had a lot of support people around us was one thing. And then we got here and discovered that Robbie and I and our team, but Robbie and I have so many roles within a small business. We'd never run small businesses before. So, we do everything. We buy the paper for the printer. It's not something we worried about before. So there's just so many details to running a business like this that were unexpected. Yeah.
I'd say how positively the community responded to something like a brewery coming to town. Williamsburg historically is a brewing town. Anheuser-Busch has been here for many, many years, employs many, many people in the community. So the town is familiar with brewing. Aleworks Brewing Company has been here in various iterations. The Williamsburg Beer Company, Williamsburg Brewing Company, Aleworks Brewing Company. They've got a storied history. They really were set the stage for craft beer in the community. And then we came along, and we knew we had some connections with the college. Chris and Aaron moved back here in 2012, so 4 years before the brewery opened, and got involved in the community. I moved back full-time in 2014, got involved in the community. We both hold various positions in the community. Chris is on the Chamber of Commerce Board. I'm on the City of Williamsburg Economic Development Authority. We both try to do a lot of volunteer work on our own time, in addition to what the brewery can offer, local philanthropic groups. But us just being here and kind of repeating to people who maybe naysayed us a little bit, saying, you're going to open a brewery, right? We hear that all the time. We're not going anywhere. 2012, 2013, 2014, we're here. This is where we quit our jobs. This is going to happen one way or the other. It takes 2 years or 6 years. And the end result was when we finally opened, the community, the groundswell of support really came through. And I'm sure many communities are like that, but I do think that Williamsburg in particular really supports their own, and they really saw the hard work we put in. They really appreciated the quality of beer that Jonathan was bringing to the table, and they enjoyed the kind of new space that we were bringing to this side of town. So since day one, the community's been there for us, and that's really been a very, unique experience outside of what we expected.
Yeah. And you guys have a good-sized scale production going on, and you mentioned that when you started, you wanted to have a space and a setup that would basically allow you to do what you wanted to do from the beginning. So how did you envision being the size that you are and not starting super small and then getting bigger?
When we were doing this, the bulk of the business plan writing was back in 2012, and what we heard from so many breweries that we visited, and obviously we tried to talk to people who own breweries to get their input on what we wanted to do as often as we could, was that breweries were growing so fast at that time that they'd open small, and then 6 months later they're completely out of space,
right.
And they need to spend money and time, and they need to find a new building, and it slows their growth down. So our whole business plan from the beginning was, let's get a big building, and we wanted 20,000 square feet. This building's 11,000 square feet. That was one challenge of being in Williamsburg. We just don't have many big warehouse-style buildings close to downtown.
The idea, I think, for us was that the camaraderie of the brewing industry is real. It's incredible. Obviously, we're all running businesses. We're all trying to keep the lights on. But at the end of the day, us coming in, wearing, our corporate outfits, blazer, sweater vest, khakis,
sadly
press
true.
pants. Our first Brewers Association Craft Brewers Conference. We definitely were the business guys. Rolling to San Diego. Completely overdressed.
It's a picture of Robbie in a sweater vest.
There's some. We will have branded sweater vests one day, I promise you.
I hope so.
I won't be here anymore.
But that's us then going into other breweries. Chris actually spent a lot of time at Hardywood, who was very good to us, with Eric McKay, one of their founders, just asking questions. And Eric was very open about, here's what we did that we think went really well. Here's what we do differently. Spend a day on the floor, helping out the canning line just to see how things go, kind of see the moving pieces that maybe you guys haven't seen before. And the end result was, us saying to ourselves, can we have the best of both worlds? Can we find a building that's big enough to host a system that allows us to produce a few high quality, year-round recipes that hopefully build a reputation for ourselves, that go out into the market, that people try and makes them interested in coming back to the source of where it's all brewed to try some of our small batch stuff. Can we also have that small batch system that keeps our brewing team interested, that lets Jonathan be very creative, lets him source maybe some more expensive ingredients or some harder to find ingredients on a smaller scale, to have that kind of test kitchen here in the brewery. The law changed in 2012 in Virginia to allow breweries to have tap rooms that weren't associated with restaurants. That really was a game changer for us as we started really getting serious about our business planning. So the end result was this building specifically allowed us to put in that 30 barrel system, allows us to really not mass produce, but for a small 2-year-old craft brewery, kind of mass produce comparatively to a lot of other breweries. A few flagship and seasonal recipes that really help to spread the word about what we're doing here and get the beer out onto the shelves at bottle shops and taps at local craft beer bars. But then that 5-barrel system hits, the brewers can be creative. We can do collaborations with other breweries, with distilleries, with meaderies, and really have some fun here and use this tap room as a test kitchen to get people to come in and let us know what they like. And, it's the best of both worlds, we think.
Yeah, and that actually segues perfectly, because I wanted to ask you guys about your beers. So you have a consistent line of flagship beers that are widely produced. I'm drinking Freeverse, right? So this is one of the ones that you can find all over the state of Virginia. And then you have an offset side of rotational taps that you rotate back and forth.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about those beers. What are your favorites? What do you love to brew? And I mean, John's not with us, or Jonathan.
The nice thing I will say is that we all three, like Jonathan, we kind of refer to ourselves as the three-headed monster in terms of talking about beers and recipe development and branding, because I think we all like different styles. But we all know that we can't just brew the exact styles that we like, because there's a much wider audience than the three of us out there. And I think that's what's helped make us successful in these early 2 years, is that we have a pretty open mind about using both of these systems to put on. We've got 16 taps, and so depending on time of year, we might have 9 different options. We might have 16 different options, and it really allows us to showcase the skill set of our 3 brewers, but also the fact that there's so many different styles in beer that there's no reason to pigeonhole to just IPAs or just barrel-aged beers.
Right.
Yeah, we all have different tastes. I particularly love English-style beers, and that's not common. So we do a good number of those just here in the tap room. Usually we don't send those out to market. One thing, Robbie's having one right now. One thing Jonathan brought to us actually that I think neither of us anticipated was Brett beers. So using Brettanomyces in our brewery, and it was never something that we were hugely into, but once Jonathan started talking about it, we started drinking the beers and realizing that that's different, and that's a niche that we can fill. So that's something we do here that's not done commonly, and we do lots of different kinds of Brett beers. We're releasing one this Saturday, Brett Freeverse, so our Freeverse IPA fermented with Brettanomyces. But we also have a barrel fermentation project where we ferment Belgian-style saisons with Brettanomyces in barrels, and then we age those beers in barrels. And that's a unique thing we do. And, like Robbie talked about, we're all a little different. So that's something that Jonathan brought to us that we otherwise wouldn't have here.
And the fun of that series is that Jonathan's former background, whereas we came from corporate America, Jonathan was a teacher. And so he was an English teacher, homebrewer on the side. He always says that the kids did not drive him to drink, but they drove him to find another career. So he became a very dedicated and a very talented homebrewer, and that led him to his first job at Jackalope in Nashville, which he then parlayed into a full-time job in Sweetwater in Atlanta. So when Jonathan explains why Brett is different than Lacto, Brett beers versus sour beers, what Brett does when it's in these wooden wine barrels, what a Brett IPA is going to be like comparatively to the base IPA recipe, he does a very good job explaining it in a way that I think invigorates the audience, but also makes it very clear and kind of short statements. And so we're going to actually kind of push that a little further and have a few off-site educational series when Brett Freeverse hits on Saturday to try to explain why is Brett fun and what does it do to beer, and why should you try a Brett version of an IPA if you already love the regular version.
And that's going to be a beer that's only available here in the tap room, right? You're not going to can that and send it out?
It's actually bottled in 500 milliliter bottles, and it will go out in very small quantities. But we do release almost all of our beers just here in the tap room. We've brewed 200 different recipes in just over 2 years.
Awesome.
And 95% of those beers are only available here.
Okay, so one more reason for all the people at home to come in and to the Williamsburg location here and get a taste of it, what's in the tap room.
Absolutely.
What do you think makes Virginia Beer Company different? What sets you apart from everybody else?
For me, it starts with the people. So the spirit of the company. We've been blessed with really talented staff members who have joined us. And in a lot of cases, almost all of our hires have been people who had either heard about Chris and my story, who had met us in the community as we were out there supporting other craft breweries while trying to build our own, who had tried Jonathan's beer and fell in love with some of his recipe development, something akin to that, who had said, I'll do what it takes to become a member of this team. And we've got 12 employees now, 12 members of the family, and it's very genuine when people come in. The most positive feedback we get, in addition to the quality of the beer and maybe the fun of the space, is how much they enjoyed the interaction with our people. And I think that hardworking nature and that spirit translates into the quality of the beer, into the time you spend in our space, and that helps to build the reputation. When people travel up to Richmond, when they go up to Northern Virginia, out to Charlottesville, they're like, hey, if you're going through Williamsburg, you've got to check out Virginia Beer Company. It's great people, great space, great beer, but the people are really who are bringing everyone back. So I mean that's kind of where it starts. And I know that's an intangible, but we really do put a lot of pride into making our spaces as the best space it can be, and that starts with the people who are really promoting the space.
And you touched on it briefly, but I think on the beer side, besides creativity, is quality. There's a lot of great beer in this country now. There's also some beer that people got into it for the wrong reasons, and they haven't paid attention to quality. And in our business plan up front, we decided that we were going to invest in a lab. And a serious lab at that, bigger than a brewery our size typically has, because there's nothing more important in a crowded marketplace than having perfect beer every time, and that's what we strive for. You get one chance at a first impression with a craft beer consumer these days. There's too much good beer out there that if they have one of your beers and it's not good, they don't need to come back. So that's one thing we take great pride in and put a lot of work into every day.
So you guys have been open for 2 years. What do you extrapolate out another 5? Where do you see yourselves in the future? Where do you want?
I mean, well,
where do you want to be?
Part of it is sharing the flagship, the core brands. I mean, in this day and age, everyone gets really excited for that small batch release, that seasonal release, and they should. I mean, we're doing some fun stuff. A lot of other breweries are doing some really fun stuff. But our 4 core beers are core beers for a reason. We are incredibly proud of just the diversity, the flavor profiles. I like to think that Jonathan took those recipes and they're kind of standard traditional styles that go a little off script in terms of some of the ingredient additions. We just won a gold medal at the Virginia Craft Beer Cup Awards for our Elbow Patches Oatmeal Stout. My personal favorite, Freeburst India Pale Ale, tropical, juicy, a lot of Chinook, a lot of Zaka. By far our best seller. We're kind of joking, it's right now the beer that's building our brewery, because we've got a couple more tanks coming in and maybe a few more tanks in a canning line about to be ordered.
Right.
So I mean, those core brands are really what's driving that growth. And so as we grow, our distribution network right now is kind of as far north as Richmond and as far east as Virginia Beach, and we'd like to be statewide, and we've talked about maybe dabbling with some international distribution. Just we're so close to the coast, and Chris actually has a lot of family ties back in the UK and Europe, and so there's that kind of a natural connection there as well. Let's share these core brands that we're so proud of to get people excited about what else is to come, and so that's kind of a big focus for us right now, growing over a methodical pace. As the quality stays in place, that distribution network, and showcasing what these beers are meant to do, which is make people fall in love with, hopefully, either their first craft beer or kind of reinvigorate their love of craft beer.
I still won't be wearing a BBC branded sweater vest in 5 years. I can tell you that. That's all I can see.
No more sweater vests.
No,
that's it.
No more. We're done.
The garbage.
Yep.
I don't blame you.
I mean, in 5 years, we'll probably have to consider a second location at some point.
Yeah.
If things keep going well, knock on wood. But part of it's not just foot traffic; it's also production space. I mean, if we put in 3 or 4 new, 60-barrel or 90-barrel tanks and a canning line, we're going to put some kegs for storage out in the parking lot, and our parking's already constrained. A good problem to have, but at some point, you just need more production space.
Right.
That's probably also a future plan.
Very cool. Anything that we haven't touched on that you want the I Love Virginia Beer listeners to know about, other than to come up and
try the beers?
Try the beer?
Yeah, no, come up to the tap room, meet our people, try our beers here. If you see our year-round beers and our seasonal limited beers in the market, give them a shot. Like I said before, we strive to produce the best quality beer we can, creative, flavorful.
And I would say one of the biggest things for us at this point now, 2 years in, is don't sleep on Williamsburg as a craft beer community. I think a lot of people historically, like I said, know Williamsburg from its Anheuser-Busch days.
Right.
Aleworks has been here doing a lot of great stuff for 13 years now.
Yeah.
We're 2 years in. We've got 2 other craft breweries, a brew pub, 2 distilleries, a winery, a meatery. There's some cool stuff going on, and obviously Northern Virginia and Richmond get a lot of focus because of the amazing things going on in those communities. I'm from Northern Virginia, so I'm a fanboy when I go home for a lot of those breweries. We just started distribution in Richmond, so we spend as much time on sales calls as we do hitting other breweries. But Williamsburg's got a lot of stuff going on, and there's a really cool tasting trailer here, and it's 100% worth, if you're in Richmond, that 45-minute drive, if you're on the coast, fighting the tunnel traffic, to get up here, because you can have a great weekend and go home with a lot of tasty beverages.
That's great. Well, thank you both very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
From the beautiful tap room at Virginia Beer Company here in Williamsburg, Virginia. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Don't forget to go to ilovevirginiabeer.com, where you can find awesome hats with a bottle opener in the bill, t-shirts, sweatshirts, no sweaters, no sweater vests. Yet, maybe soon. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.